Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. I guess everyone in Canada just had a nice long weekend and now you're back to the grind. It wasn't a long weekend here, but it sure was beautiful. Anyway, I hope whatever you ended up doing that you had a wonderful time. I want to do this video today and tell my story. I have a lot of people that follow me now that only know the story from 4 or 5 weeks ago when I actually started coming on to my public page, my personal page. Until then, I was keeping it on my page called My Journey, which I had created in January, 3 weeks after my diagnosis, to help me out with communication because the response was overwhelming and there just wasn't enough hours in the day to keep up with everyone. And so it helped me out and it helped keep everybody motivated. So the reason this video is sparked is because of the amount of people that I do have that reach out to me constantly. I have a lot of people that follow me with terminal illnesses, cancer, loved ones that have cancer. I've even had people reaching out to me that just have goals and dreams, people that are trying to lose weight and whatever. And all of your messages, I really, really, really appreciate them. Thank you so much, you guys. It is you guys that keep me going and keep me inspired on my bad days. You know, I am human. I do break down. I do cry. I try to stay positive as much as I can. I do have a great outlook on life, but I am human. So I appreciate all of your messages. But there was one specific message 3 days ago that really sparked me wanting to do a video because she was looking for my advice. She was asking me questions about my personal story, basically. She's afraid because she feels like something's wrong and doesn't want to go to the doctor. Now, I cannot stress enough how important it is to be an advocate for yourself. You have to advocate for yourself. If you feel like something's wrong, go to the doctor. Trust your gut. Always, always trust your gut. There's no harm in doing the blood work, in doing the scans and the tests and making sure. Don't be afraid of the answers. Be afraid of not knowing so that you can't do anything about it. You have to advocate for yourself. And if you're scared, take someone with you. And if you're not of sound mind, there was a point in time for me where I was really not of sound mind. And I should have had someone with me, but I didn't realize how bad it was. That point in time was when I was going through chemo, and for about 2 months after I quit doing chemo. I am still suffering some minor side effects from it, but they've gotten so much better. That I'm not going to get into because that will be a different video. I want to go into Western medicine on another video, and I did chemotherapy. I'm going to go into it, what it did to me, the side effects, the damage, how it changed my life, and why I decided that I was never going to do it again. Hence why I am in Santa Barbara doing natural treatment, why I went to Tijuana to do natural treatment. On a third video, I actually want to take you back to Tijuana and tell you what they did for me, what the treatment looked like, what this vaccine is and how it works. And so basically by me telling my story, because I now post everything on my personal page to try to help people in their decisions. Maybe you're struggling, maybe you just got diagnosed and you're not sure what you want to do or whatever. So basically it's my experience that I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to share my story so that everybody's kind of caught up and on the same page, and also so that I don't have to hopefully answer so many questions. Not that I have to answer it, but I like helping people. And if my personal experience can help give you some knowledge or help give you some courage or give you the inspiration to not give up and not quit, then I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm just giving back what I've learned. But before I do that, I'm going to actually tell you my story, because what I've learned through my story is that doctors are busy and they can become lazy and they can become complacent. And we might think that we've got it all dialed in. We're totally paying attention. We know what's going on. We're asking all the right questions and everything else. Or we just don't ask anything because we trust them because they're the professionals. But that is not entirely true. Yes, they're the professionals, but they can become lazy and complacent. And it never hurts to have a second set of ears there, taking notes, paying attention, and asking questions. Even if you feel like you are of sound mind, it doesn't hurt to ask questions. Now, going through it doesn't hurt to have another person with you. I really, really wish that I had. I've always been pretty independent though, and I thought I had it. I thought it was all nailed down. I was good. I had no idea until all of a sudden, one day at the end of April 29th to be exact, I had an awakening basically and realized I had not been dialed in. There was a whole lot of things that came crashing down around me when I all of a sudden realized that I hadn't been okay for a very long time. And I had been going through these appointments alone. I didn't have anybody advocating for me, but more importantly, I wasn't of sound mind to advocate for myself, and I wasn't of sound mind to even know that. So I'm going to take you back 13 months before my diagnosis. It was December of 2017. This is as far back as I can remember actually being sick. This may be when everything started. I don't really know. It's just a guess. But in December 2017, I got really sick. Long story short, went to the doctor a couple of times. He finally diagnosed me with walking pneumonia and bronchitis. I went on medication, continued to work, continued running myself down. When all my medications were through and Christmas was over and whatever, everything kind of calmed down. I thought that I was better and I felt pretty good, but I had a cough that I could not get rid of. And it was brutal and it just never went away. Then 2 months later in March, my sister-in-law passed away, and that was one of the most devastating times of my life. I was absolutely heartbroken. So I started experiencing some symptoms, but honestly, I chalked it up to grief. I chalked it up to stress of life. There was a lot of stress at home, and there had been for years, and there was a lot of stress at work. And then all this grief from my sister-in-law, I just kind of ignored it and pushed it aside, which I never should have done, but I did, considering I had this crazy cough too that I hadn't even went and got checked out. So then I went to London, England with my girlfriend in April, and the symptoms continued to get worse. And then in May, I was getting weird, this one very weird symptom, and I was hypersalivating at night. So my saliva glands would go crazy. You know when you chew like a really sour gum ball or something like that, you get this, it's almost like a pain, it's like a dull ache, but your mouth just starts to water like crazy. Like hot wings will do it too. And anyway, so that was happening to me at night, and it was actually waking me up. So I went to the doctor, and he told me to take Tums and Gaviscon. And so I did, but pretty soon I was taking them like they were a food group. So I went back to the doctor, and he thought maybe I had an ulcer. So he stuck me on ulcer medication. So I took that, and it made sense. My life was so stressful. I was still very grief-stricken over my sister-in-law. Anyway, I finally went back at the end of June because things were just getting progressively worse. It was happening more and more. It wasn't getting better, and I figured I'd been on the medication long enough that I should be seeing a difference by now. So I asked him for a scan or a scope, and he initially said no because I had had one 6 years before, but a lot can happen in 6 years, so I really pushed for it and ended up getting him to put a requisition in. And I continued to take the ulcer medication through the summer. In August, I started having a problem with food. I was having a hard time eating. I was having a very hard time with digestion, it seemed, with specific foods like meats, anything really heavy, but especially meat. I couldn't have anything spicy. I was having a hard time with onions, garlic, and broccoli, anything really acidic, spicy stuff. So, and then my portions started getting smaller and smaller and smaller because I was having this incredible feeling of fullness after I would order a little tiny salad and I would eat half of it and just be stuffed, or I would have a half of a glass of water. Heaven forbid I have them together. That just couldn't happen. Anyway, so then I went back to the doctor and made sure that the requisition was in and ended up getting into the gastroenterologist on September the 8th. He saw some damage in there, thought that it was ulcers because he had done some biopsies and they came back negative for cancer. I didn't even know he was checking me for cancer, but I was cancer-free, so that was good. So I continued on and thought, okay, I really need to, I really need to lighten up, basically. I thought I was just like this major stress ball, and I think actually I was, but I had some things that were starting to distract me in a really good way, one thing in particular, and so I kind of wasn't really paying attention until October came around, and I had lost a considerable amount of weight. So I went to the doctor, and in order to get his attention, I had to actually take my shirt off and show him my bony body so that he would really take me seriously. So then I started going through a series of tests, but the pain continued to get worse, and I continued to lose weight. Finally, after several different tests and appointments and stuff, I went back to my gastroenterologist. I had already seen him 2 or 3 times in between September, but I was at 102 pounds and I couldn't eat anything. I had a girl at work, thank you, Nadine, that kept me alive with homemade bone broth. And that basically became my staple, and that was why I stayed as healthy as I did, I guess. Because even now I'm actually very healthy, except for the cancer. Yes, my body was run down, my organs were run down, but all my blood counts and everything have all remained good. My liver and kidney functions have remained good. I'm malnourished, but that's changing very quickly. I'm getting better and better all the time. So it's really crazy because I've always been quite healthy. But anyway, so he basically told me to eat whatever it was that I could get in my system just for calories, which unfortunately was a lot of comfort food that was very, very bad for me. It's very bad for everybody, but I had no idea what was going on at the time. And had I, it would have been better that I didn't eat those foods. So we did a double scope, and he did some deeper, larger biopsies, dozens of them actually, and December 16th it came back cancer-free again. And I thought, okay, this is a good thing, but what the hell is wrong with me? Because going into that scan, I said, I don't even care what it is. I just want to know so I have a starting point. So we didn't have a starting point again. And I just thought, okay, whatever. He said, I'm not going to give up on you. I know there's something wrong and I'm going to find it and I'm not going to quit until I do. He was so on my side all the time. And I had a lot of people that were starting to do research, one in particular trying to figure out my symptoms and what it might be, you know. I was also starting to really use Dr. Google because it had been going on for so long. And you know what? Google's great, but be very careful. There's a lot of published medical journals out there. Look for those. Those you can trust. Those are the real deal. There's also a lot of people on YouTube that you can follow that are really, really good. But just check their credentials and know that you're following somebody real and you're not just getting a bunch of opinions, because Google's full of opinions. You know, I mean, I can give you my opinion, but I'm just going to tell you right from the heart, and it is from my personal experience, because I am not a medical professional and I don't want anybody following my advice except if it's just me telling you, be an advocate for yourself. Have somebody with you when you go. Don't stop searching for answers until you get them. Don't stop. Be pushy, be loud, be whatever you need to be, but don't stop. So you can listen to me with that, but when it comes to medical advice, I would never give it anyway, because I just know what I'm going through, and that's all, and I can just share my experiences. So anyway, he ended up doing this double scope, and I got this news that I was cancer-free. 2 days later, I got the news that I was stage 4 terminal with stomach cancer that had metastasized to my bowel and colon. So I was devastated, but I went to work that night. I talked to my kids. I went to work. I talked to, obviously the girls knew because I was in shock, but I basically told them with a smile on my face. I didn't even know. I was in shock. I didn't know how to deal with it. I did my shift. I continued to work through the week. The only time I actually cried the first little while was when I was telling my partner at the time. I had been so upset all night. I had just started a brand new life, just a month before. And I had been so upset all night, I didn't know how to say it. And that was basically the first time that I cried, was the following morning. And then I don't even remember when I cried the next time, because it was just so shocking. I was in disbelief. It wasn't real. I still have moments now where it doesn't really feel real. It's insane how much it can change your life. And it really did. It really has changed my life. And I actually lost a part of my life while I was going through chemo. A part of my life that I can never get back. And I was really devastated over that. So anyway, I'm not going to get into chemo though, because that will be a totally different video. So anyway, I continued to work, and then my daughter had a baby 5 days after I was diagnosed. So it was a really good distraction, because every day I was phoning her. How are things going? You know, and whatever, because I had to go to work, and I was just letting the girls know at work, like, if I get that phone call, I'm gone, you know. And anyway, so she ended up having the baby on the 23rd, a little baby girl, and so beautiful. It was a beautiful, beautiful distraction. And that was probably also why I didn't really take a lot of time to deal with my own situation. I think maybe at the time I just didn't want to, you know. I was super happy in my life. So many things, so many good things had happened. and were happening that I didn't want to focus on that negative shit. I just wanted to go through Christmas and have a good time and then focus on that when it came up. I knew I had an appointment coming up with the oncologist and I didn't want to focus on that, So she had the baby on the 23rd. After I was done at the hospital with her, I drove to Quesnel to tell my family the news. I came back on the 24th in the evening, celebrated Christmas the 25th and 26th, went to work on the 27th, met with my oncologist on the 28th. He gave me my prognosis of 6 to 12 months and told me I had no time to waste and I needed to start chemo right away. So I went to work that night and I worked out my last shift. And then through the course of the next few days, I trained my replacement, kind of, if you want to call it that. I just kind of like threw it at her. Poor girl. Here. And then I celebrated New Year's for the first time in years. So I'm really glad that I got to celebrate New Year's because in my line of work, I always work it. I can't even remember the last time that I got to celebrate New Year's. So I'm very thankful that I got to spend it with someone that I loved at the time and just experience it. I was very grateful because I didn't know, what was going to happen. None of us do. None of us do. Just because I have an expiry date on my head, it doesn't really make me any difference. It's the only difference between me and you, basically, because anything can happen at any time. So we just need to live life and enjoy the people that we're around and the people that we love and do the things that we enjoy doing, things that make our hearts happy. Just live. So that was a really nice evening. 2 days later, I started chemo and everything changed. My whole life changed. And it completely changed my future, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is, and everything happens for a reason. So on March 26th, after I had done chemo for 2.5 months straight with no break, sick as a dog, I went and got a PET scan done in Vancouver at the BC Cancer Agency, and that's where they inject your body full of radioactive sugar tracers. So these sugar tracers basically told me that the chemo hadn't helped me at all. So I stopped doing chemo. That was going to be my deciding factor whether I was going to continue on with it or not. It didn't help me, so I stopped. But what it did tell me was that there was 2 little nodules that were brand new that were only 1 millimeter each. 1 millimeter. So easy to fix. But the doctor assumed that they were inactive, and because I was so messed up on the chemo and not capable of speaking for myself, thinking for myself, or advocating for myself, I actually didn't realize the severity of it, and I let it go. He told me he assumed they weren't active, and I let it go. I should not have done that, but I didn't know any better at the time. This is why I can't stress enough. Make sure that you have somebody with you when it comes to big decisions like this, especially if you're under the influence of such extreme drugs like I was. And between the side effects and the allergic reactions, I was so messed up. Anyway, so I decided not to continue with chemo, and I just started doing my own thing. I was juicing, I was exercising. As soon as I felt good enough, I started pushing myself as much as I could. I started going back to work, a little bit here and there, just once in a while, and then I started having a bit of pain, and I was noticing it more at work and more when I was pushing myself physically, but I wasn't really paying much attention to it. I was just pushing myself to get better and keep going, and so that's what I did. I was really enjoying being back at work and being around everybody and just kind of having that interaction with people, because when I was on chemo, I really didn't see anybody. I couldn't. I was in confinement, basically. It was like being in jail in your own house. It was brutal. And I was bedridden most of the time anyway. So I was starting to get extremely depressed. So it was really nice to have the interaction with everyone. So I really enjoyed myself. June 26th, exactly 3 months after I had gone the PET scan, I went to get my results, or my results of a CT scan that I had 2 weeks prior. 2 weeks. It takes only a couple of days for the doctors to get the results. So I was really pissed off that the doctor didn't call me, because this is where he told me that I had a second diagnosis. And with that diagnosis came a very bleak prognosis of 1 to 3 months. And the condition that was a side effect of this diagnosis, this new rare form of cancer, had a bleak prognosis of 1 to 4 months. So I thought, how do you hang on to information like that? Why wouldn't he have called me? You know, he probably hung on to that information for a week and a half. This is why it's so important to be proactive for yourself. Nobody's going to fight for you like you will fight for you. Hence why I actually became extremely disappointed in Western medicine. They tried to talk me back into doing chemo 3 more times, and I'd rather die. And I had made the decision that I would die before I would ever do it again. So now I'm in a very good place, and I'm feeling very, very good about it. I'm super happy to report that I am actually starting to feel a little bit better. I'm noticing a difference. I'm eating a little bit more, and my pain is less. That says something to me, and it makes me very excited. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough. And thank you guys so much for listening. I'm going to do another video on chemo next, and then the treatments in Tijuana. I'm not even going to touch on Santa Barbara because I just finished day 4 here of my treatments, but I'm really excited about what's happening so far, and I can't wait to share with you. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.